it back to me, Algy.
According to the inscription, this cigarette case is a present from someone of the name of Cicely. Well, I thought you said you didn't know anyone of that name.
Well, if you want to know, Cicely happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, charming old lady she is, too. For heaven's sake, give it back to me, Algy.
But why does she call herself Little Cicely, if she's your aunt? From Little Cicely with her fondest love.
My dear fellow, what on earth is there in that? Some aunts are tall, some aunts are not tall. That's a matter that surely an aunt may be allowed to decide for herself.
Ah, yes, but why does your aunt call you her uncle? From Little Cicely with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. Well, there is no objection, I admit, to an aunt being a small aunt, but why an aunt, no matter what her size may be, should call her own nephew her uncle, I can't quite make out. Besides, your name isn't Jack at all. It's Ernest.
It isn't Ernest, it's Jack.
Well, you've always told me it was Ernest. I've introduced you to everyone as Ernest. You look as if your name was Ernest. You're the most earnest-looking person I ever saw in my life.
Well, my name is Ernest in town and Jack in the country. That cigarette case was given me in the country.
Do you know, my dear fellow, I have always suspected you of being a confirmed and secret Bunburyist, and I'm quite sure of it now.
Bunburyist? What on earth do you mean by a Bunburyist?
I'll reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable expression as soon as you are kind enough to explain to me why you are Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Well, produce my cigarette case first.
Well, here it is. Now, produce your explanation.
Well, old Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was a little boy, made me in his will guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cicely Cardew. Cicely, who addresses me as our uncle from motives of respect that you could not possibly appreciate, lives at my place in the country under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prism.
Where is your place in the country, by the way?
That is nothing to you, dear boy. You are not going to be invited. I may tell you candidly that the place is not in Shropshire.
I suspected that, my dear fellow. But why are you Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear Algy, when one is placed in the position of guardian, one has to adopt a very high moral tone on all subjects. And so, in order to get up to town for a bit of pleasure, I have always pretended to have a younger brother of the name of Ernest, who lives in London and gets into the most dreadful scrapes. That, my dear Algy, is the whole truth, pure and simple.
The truth is really pure and never simple. What you really are is a Bunburyist. You're one of the most advanced Bunburyists I know.
What on earth do you mean?
You have invented a very useful younger brother, called Ernest, in order that you may be able to come up to town as often as you like. I have invented an invaluable permanent invalid called Bunbury, in order that I may be able to go down into the country whenever I choose. Oh. Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. If it wasn't for Bunbury's extraordinary bad health, for instance, I wouldn't be able to dine with you tonight.
I haven't asked you to dine with me tonight.
I know, you're absurdly careless about sending out invitations. Besides, now that I know you're a confirmed Bunburyist...
I'm not a Bunburyist at all. If Gwendolen accepts me, I'm going to kill my brother. Indeed, I think I'll kill him in any case. Cicely's a little too much interested in him, and I strongly advise you to do the same with Mr. Bunbury.
If I get Aunt Augusta out of the way for 10 minutes so that you can propose to Gwendolen, may I dine with you?
Oh, I suppose so, if you want to. And now that you've eaten all of Aunt Augusta's cucumber sandwiches, will you kindly pass me a piece of Gwendolen's bread and butter?
It's a few minutes later. Lady Bracknell, a rather large and awe-inspiring female, attired in a lorgnette, a purple gown, a feather boa hat with a stuffed owl on it, has arrived with her daughter, Gwendolen Fairfax. Of Miss Fairfax, let it be said that she's young, her wasp waist is incredibly slender, her parasol is pink, and she is beautiful. Lady Bracknell is speaking.
I'm sorry if we're a little late, Algernon, but I was obliged to call on dear Lady Harbury. I hadn't been there since her poor husband's death. I never saw a woman so altered. She looks quite 20 years younger.
I hear her hair's turned quite gold from grief.
It certainly has changed its colour. From what cause, I, of course, cannot say. Gwendolen, come here and sit next to me.
Thanks, Mamma. I'm quite comfortable where I am, next to Mr. Worthing.
And now, Algernon, I'll have a cup of tea and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta. Good heavens, there are no cucumber sandwiches. I am greatly distressed, Aunt Augusta.
No, it really makes no matter, Algernon. Oh, by the way, I've quite a treat for you at my little dinner party tonight.
I'm afraid, Aunt Augusta, I shall have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight after all.
I hope not, Algernon. It would put my table completely out. Your uncle would have to dine upstairs. Fortunately, he's accustomed to that.
The fact is, I've just had a telegram to say that my poor friend Bunbury is very ill again.
Well, I must say, Algernon, that I think it's high time that Mr. Bunbury made up his mind whether he's going to live or die. This shilly-shallying with the question is absurd.
Algy, don't you think...
yes, of course, Ernest, yes. Aunt Augusta, I'll run over the music program I've drawn up for your reception next Saturday, if you will be good enough to accompany me into the next room for a moment.
Oh, very well, Algernon. Gwendolen, I shall return in a moment.
Yes, Mamma.
Miss Fairfax, I would like to be allowed to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you to do so, Mr. Worthing.